watch and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I just wanted to make hopefully a quick video discussing how Miriam Colin's performance of Georgina Montana, Tony and Gina's mom in Scarface, kind of went unnoticed, which I suppose was the point because she was a character that was set off into the background, and she was of course his mom, and she's always going to come off as sort of like controlling or whatever to a degree, in Tony's eyes at least. Maybe that's why her character wasn't brought more to the forefront. But I always felt that her performance was the most emotionally significant and the most understated in the entire film, because we never really think about Georgina Montana. She knew that Gina was in trouble the second that Tony walked back into their lives that night. When Gina's telling Tony, "Oh, I'm going to cosmetology school. I'm going to get my certification. I'm going to do hair and nails," and then how she tells Tony how her mom is still working in the factory, and then Tony's like, "Well, guess what? That's all over with. Like my sister." My kid sister's not doing people's hair. And my mom's not working in a factory. Your son made it. I'm a success. And Georgina knows what Tony is. And she knows right away, like I said, that Gina's entire future is being threatened just by Tony's sort of reappearance here because of how much Gina thinks of Tony. And sadly, how much Tony thinks of Gina. And then at the end of the movie, when it's discovered that Manny's missing, Gina's missing, and then Georgina tells Tony that, I can't talk to her anymore, so I can't reach her. She's just like you. And Tony's like, "Where did she go?" She's like, "Well, one day I followed her in I took a taxi in this big house," and I can't remember the name of this. It was on Citrus Drive or some shit. And the line that she says as Tony is exiting her house in a fury, attempting to find out where Gina is and probably who the guy that Gina is with, who the fuck is this dude, because he's going to die. You hear, like, of course, the line that Georgina says is, "Why do you have to destroy everything that comes your way?" And then she's left crying by her doorway as Tony and his men completely ignore that. And Tony's like, gives the address to them, and he's like, "All right, let's go." And you see his mom in the background crying, and she's saying things that nobody can quite make out. And I think that's because her character was supposed to be ignored to a degree. Because in this situation, like somebody with such a strong moral compass doesn't really have a place in this world. And that's why people like Georgina, the volume would be turned down on them. And I think that's why De Palma chose to do that, was to have her sobs and her concerns be off in the background as Tony was looking to get revenge on whoever it was that Gina was with. And that's the last we see of his mother. And I always think about characters like this, and which is cool. I found out since starting this YouTube channel that I'm not the only person that thinks this way. I always think about what happened to her afterwards. Like, she's in that house alone. Like, her son, she never had one. And her husband was apparently like a soldier, like a U.S. soldier that abandoned her and Tony and Gina way back when. And so she has nobody. She has nothing. She works a factory job, doing whatever, and then she comes home to an empty house because her daughter's dead because of her son's involvement or re-involvement in her daughter's life. And I just think about how incredibly sad that was. And how Miriam Colin's performance was so perfect, and it was so spot on, and it was so impassioned, and it was so believable. But then again, you could argue the same thing about the entire movie. There isn't a bad performance in this film. But I always felt that her performance sort of stood above everybody else's just because of how quiet it was. And how it was like her character was never going to get the respect she deserved because she was just the parent. She was just the mother. And it always tore me up when I was a kid. And I used to see her crying off the side of her house as Tony drove away. And she's got nothing. Like, everything she had, all she had in the world was Gina. And Gina was doing well. And that was stripped away from her. And that has always sort of resonated with me in such a significant way. Like, I've never been able to let that go. When I think of Scarface, every time I watch Scarface, I think of Miriam Colin's performance. That's the first thing that springs to mind. So, yeah, I guess that was it. I just wanted to make a quick video discussing how much I loved her performance in this movie and how I really felt that the character of Georgina Montana sort of went unsung to a degree. And that's it. I'm getting out of here because this video is way too long. You guys are amazing. I will talk to you soon. Have a good night.